New York Giants fans, it was an absolutely difficult 2024. It's one of those seasons that starts off with a lot of hope. I won't necessarily say um a lot of expectations, although I think there were a lot of people who had expectations for this season. But what we found was that the hope disappeared pretty quickly. And once the hope disappeared, so did the morale. It was a season that, from my seat, it was really, really difficult to deal with because an unhappy fan base is a tough fan base to talk to. Because people want answers that you don't have. People want the light at the end of the tunnel that you can't promise them. And then at a certain point, because it's the New York Giants and how New York fans get down, the negative just begets more negative. But I'd like to sit back and kind of try to put a bow on 2024 and all of the things that went on. So this will serve as the opportunity to get it all out, right? The good, the great, and the ugly. I am Coach Gene Clemons, and guess what? I still have a giant issue. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of A Giant Issue. I am Coach Gene Clemons, New York Giants on SI. That's where you get all of your New York Giants news and information from. Make sure you go there. Make sure you check it out. All of the happenings, all of the things that are going on, or any interviews that are going on, anything that happens that pertains to the New York Giants, you're going to be able to find it right here with the Giants on SI. We are live, and we are live. Definitely hit the chat up. I want to hear from all of you guys. Leave your comments in real time. We'll be able to talk. We'll be able to hang out. I'll be able to answer your questions if you have any questions. I'm definitely here to do that. I want to invite some people on. If you have an interest in coming on, if you look in the comments, you will see the link to join. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean like I might be able to get everyone on, but I mean, depending upon the numbers, I might be able to get everybody on. But I'm gonna put the link in the chat. You'll see it there in the box. You should see it anyway right now. The link, if you want to try to join, ask questions, make comments about the season, tell me you don't like me, at least, just tell me you don't like me and do it respectfully. Please and thank you. But yeah, we want to put a bow on 2024 as we start moving into everything that's going on in the off season, trying to get ready for 2025. First off, let's start here, because this is something that's really like bothered me, like legitimately bothered me the entire season. Right? This is something that has bothered me the entire season. How the New York Giants have handled and treated Darius Slayton in his time as a New York Giant is something that I will never understand. And I won't even try to point back to previous regimes, right? I'm just going to go off of the 3 years that we have here with Joe Shane and Brian Dable. And this is one This is why I say that these guys are a tandem, right? These guys are a duo. You don't really want to look at either one in an individual light. If one has to go, both has to go. If one has to stay, both have to stay, because I don't want someone else to come in and make up for the things that the other lack. I just want them both to go. And if they stay, I want them either to succeed or crash and burn together. I'm just being honest. When you look at what Darius Slayton has been to this New York Giants organization, I know, ladies and gentlemen, I know that none of you look at him as a wide receiver one. I get it, right? And that's fine. Like, we can argue that another time. We can debate that another time. That's not exactly what I'm here for. And shout out to Lloyd Smith. Shout out to Chino. Good morning. Cynthia Georgette. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. But there are people who don't like me, and that's cool. I don't mind. And I thank all of you for supporting the show. Darius Slayton was the wide receiver number one on this team, right? And as the wide receiver number one on this team, I think that this organization never fully got the max out of Darius Slayton. And out of no fault of his own, other than maybe you could say their first preseason, not preseason, but even before the preseason, Darius Slayton didn't have a great camp. He didn't have a great camp their first year. That was 2021, right? 1, 2, 3. No, 2022, right? 2022, their first season here. He didn't have a good camp. He was not catching the ball well. He didn't look like he had the burst, the fire, if you will. It was just something off. I don't know if it had to do with what he was told by the coaching staff or told by the front office. But whatever it was, it didn't sit well with him, right? Whatever it was, it wasn't something that made him feel as if he was wanted in this in this organization. And so in 2022, he got off to a rocky start. He barely made the team, right? He barely made the team. There were thoughts that he might get cut. He did not get cut. Wide receivers started going down left and right. Right? Wide receivers started going down left and right. And when those wide receivers started going down left and right, Darius Slayton stepped up. And he stepped up and he performed. Right? That season 2022, he caught 46 passes, which was 4 under his career total, right? His career high is 50. He caught 46 passes for 724 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 15.7 yards per reception, right? He did that in 11 starts. He did that in 11 starts. I want y'all to think about that, right? The next year, 2023, firmly cemented back, right, as the number one wide receiving option, if not the number one option, because we know that Darren Waller was the guy that they wanted to be the number one option, right? Darren Waller was the number one option. So in that year, 2023, after he was the guy, he had a good season. Richie James, I believe, had a great season. in 2022. They let James go for a ham sandwich. They didn't want to pay him anything. Everybody just pawned it off on the cap hell, this mythical cap hell that the Giants were in, that everyone else seems to be able to figure out how to manage and manipulate, right? But they didn't. Their thought process was, we want to get from up underneath this cap, not we want to push it down. We want to continue to spread it out, and eventually it'll even out. Nope. We want to get from under it. So they did things. Not even going to talk about those right now. But Darius Slayton, the next year, came back, started 13 games, had 50 receptions for 770 yards, 15.4 yards per reception, and 4 touchdowns. His catch percentage, by the way, in 22 and 23 were by far the highest catch percentages of his career. Before that was his rookie year at 57.1%, right? Those 2 years, 64.8, 63.3. His 2 best catch percentages of his career. This year, right? I'm sorry. So he did that with Darren Waller as the de facto number 1, because that's what they wanted it to be, and with Wan'Dale Robinson and Saquon Barkley. So they come into this year, and in 2024, they get all the help. In 2024, they get Malik Neighbors, right? And so we're just going to give Malik Neighbors the wide receiver 1 position. We're not going to make him earn it. We're not going to allow him to mature into it. Nope. From the beginning, he was anointed as wide receiver 1. But something weird happened this year, right? Something weird happened. When Malik Neighbors became the wide receiver 1, Darius Slayton didn't fall back to the wide receiver 2. They made Wan'Dale Robinson the wide receiver 2. Well, what do you mean, Coach? Like, how was Wan'Dale Robinson the wide receiver 2? Well, pretty simple. Look at the targets, right? Look at the targets. In what is Darius Slayton in his best seasons? He's never been targeted over 100 times. I'm going to say that again. In Darius Slayton's best seasons, in the seasons where he was the only thing that this team had out there, he has never been targeted 100 times. In 2020, Darius Slayton played 15. He started 15 of 16 games. He started 15 of 16 games. He received 96 targets. That was the most targets he received in his entire career. 96. 96. And you see his production based off of his catches and his targets. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you, right, for your consumption, the target shares for this 2024 Giants. Malik Neighbors had 170 targets. He caught 109 passes. He put up 1,204 yards and 7 touchdowns. Wan'Dale Robinson had 140 targets. He had 93 receptions, put up 699 yards and 3 touchdowns. Darius Slayton had 71 targets for 39 receptions, 573 yards. That means, ladies and gentlemen, his 14.7, right? Very close to what he's averaged for his entire career. So we don't need to act as if the reason that the only reason Darius Slayton did what he did for the Giants was because of, his inability to. No. The game comes down to opportunity, right? Remember, I was talking about catch percentage, correct? Most of Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson's catches were hitches and slants and balls that were thrown at the first level. You know how I know? Because their yards per reception is trash. Malik Neighbors was below he was below double digits until the last couple of games where he got a few explosive plays, right? Before those last couple of games, his yards per reception was below 10. He finished with exactly 11 yards per reception. Wan'Dale Robinson's yards per reception is 7.5. Now, I'm not saying you had to make Darius Slayton the number one wide receiver when you have Malik Neighbors. You guys know that I've said that I believe that Malik Neighbors is wide receiver one and has a chance to be one of the best wide receivers in the entire NFL. I stand by that. However, there is no way in God's green earth that you give Wan'Dale Robinson double the amount of targets you gave Darius Slayton. I'd like to do for you a little simple math, ladies and gentlemen. Because again, this is who Darius Slayton is, right? Darius Slayton is a guy who's going to get you 14 to 15 yards per reception because that's what he's done his entire career. So let's just say if you gave Darius Slayton 40 of those 140 targets that you gave Wan'Dale Robinson. So that means you would have given Darius Slayton 111 targets. This year was one of his lowest catch percentage years, right? One of his lowest, 54.9%. Not his lowest, but one of the lower ones, right? So that means he's going to catch the ball 55% of the time. So he would have had 61 receptions, right? His 61 receptions at 14.7 yards per reception would have given him 896 yards. So if you gave him the same amount of receptions as Wan'Dale Robinson or targets as Wan'Dale Robinson this year, he would have absolutely destroyed Wan'Dale Robinson's numbers. You know how I know? Because Darius Slayton's 573 yards, it is on 54 less receptions. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know in any world where you give a guy who is that per reception successful, that low of a number of receptions, of targets. What they did to Darius Slayton, not restructuring his deal to give him more money, right? Let's start there. They didn't restructure his deal to give him more money. They didn't trade him in free agency, right? They didn't trade him in free agency. They gave him an incentive-laden contract, and then they made sure that he didn't hit any of the incentives. Think about this. I just want y'all to understand. A lot of you were out there upset that they asked for money back from Nick McCloud, right? Like, how could you be mad that they asked money back from Nick McCloud, a guy that they just brought in off the street, when they put an incentive-laden contract together for Darius Slayton and then purposely made sure that he did not hit any of those numbers. Like, they sabotaged him to ensure that he did not make any of these numbers. Yo, you do not go from 70 plus targets, 70 plus receptions to 39 receptions when the two people in front of you get 109 and 93, right? You don't do that by accident. Tyrone Tracy had 38 receptions. Tyrone Tracy Jr. had one less reception than Darius Slayton. Theo Johnson, who, even though people keep trying to act like this is part of Joe Shane's great draft class, Theo Johnson was not good this year. He got 29 receptions. You gave Theo Johnson 10 receptions less than Darius Slayton. You gave Devin Singletary 21 receptions. And people are out here wondering why I'm looking so goofy at what they did to Darius Slayton this year. This was on purpose. Oh, you think you're worth this? You think you can go and be a wide receiver 2 legitimately somewhere else and get paid? We're going to not only sabotage your season, but we are going to crash your value. Which, by the way, is stupid, because if Darius Slayton put up legitimate wide receiver 2 numbers, right? If he put up legitimate wide receiver 2 numbers and then left in free agency and signed a contract worthy of a wide receiver 2, guess who would get compensated with draft capital? The New York Giants. But now, with him putting up wide receiver 3 kind of numbers, when he goes off in free agency and signs this minimal deal, right? When he goes off and does that, what do you think happens? You don't get any draft capital in return for that. You don't get any draft capital. They took a guy who, even when you added a legitimate number 1 wide receiver, continued to be your best deep threat, your best instant first down every time you throw on the ball, and you purposely did not put him into lineups where he had an opportunity to catch the ball. You purposely did not design plays for him to be able to be a part of the offense. Why? Because you don't want to pay the incentives. Because your job is to keep him from making you look foolish. This entire regime has seemed to be about how can we make sure that it is our guys who are being successful, not the team, just our guys. Why do you think Wan'Dale Robinson gets so many targets? Because he's their guy. On no team is Wan'Dale Robinson a wide receiver 2. And it's, by the way, I like Wan'Dale Robinson a lot. I defend Wan'Dale Robinson a lot. But Wan'Dale Robinson is a natural wide receiver 3. Why? Because he doesn't provide any outside receiver value. He doesn't give you legitimate outside receiver value. That's why he's a wide receiver 3. With Slayton, you can play him outside. You can play him in the slot. That's why he has wide receiver 2, and he can be he can put up wide receiver 1 numbers like he's done in New York. I'm talking a lot about Slayton, I know, but this sets the precedent for what the entire season was. Right? We might as well start with the ugly. Eli is a Hall of Famer because there are no other Hall of Famers from the 2 Super Bowl teams on offense. Even the only Hall of Famer on defense, Strahan, played his final game in Super Bowl 42. Yeah, okay. Eli is a Hall of Famer because if you're a quarterback and you win a Super Bowl, you almost automatically go to the Hall of Fame. It also helps that his last name is Manning. Like, like he put up a lot of numbers, good and bad. By the way, we don't talk about the bad, but good and bad. He put up a lot of numbers. But if you win 2 Super Bowls as a quarterback, you're going to the Hall of Fame. Period. End. You're going to the Hall of Fame. Like, that is the bar. That's the bar. Like, if you're a quarterback and you win 2 Super Bowls, knowing and you're part of the reason, right? Because it's not like he won those 2 Super Bowls riding the coattails. He played his ass off in those two playoff runs leading up to the Super Bowl. Like, it was him. He was dealing. He was good. And his last name's Manning. So he's going to get that push as well. Because the Hall of Fame is not just, a designation. It's a museum. It's a part of history. So, like, having the luminaries and the names that ring out matter. So yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. But they had a lot of talent on that team. They may not have had Hall of Fame talent because they didn't do it long enough, but they had talent on that team. Let's not act like they were just out there with a bunch of bums, right? Yeah, they should keep Slayton if they were smart, right? Because you have a guy who already understands the system. But if you're not going to use him, then what's the use of keeping him? Right? Wan'Dale Robinson, like these numbers that Wan'Dale Robinson put up this year, they're not impressive. It is the worst 90-something receptions, like production on 90-something receptions, 140 targets that I've ever seen. Like, I've never seen anyone put up that low of an output on that many receptions, right? And then Lloyd says that we need a big slot receiver, but you don't, because you have Malik Neighbors and you have Darius Slayton. If you use those guys the way that you were supposed to, and you utilized a big body Isaiah Hodgins, which they had, right? Or you bring in another big body receiver and you can move Malik Neighbors into the slot, and you could have Slayton outside and now Neighbors and Slayton switch from the slot to outside, then you would have a bigger body slot receiver. And now Wan'Dale could be your wide receiver 4. And now you really have some talent, because now you can use Wan'Dale more like he should be used. Running the jet sweeps, doing screen passes, all of those types of things that allows him to get into space, not just be a catch and get hit type of receiver. It's not all on Wan'Dale. It's on the play calling and how they called them. Milton Milroe Winston. I would love to see a combination of Jameis Winston and a young quarterback. Like, the problems that people have with Jameis Winston are turnovers, which I think is hilarious when you start looking at Eli Manning's career. Eli Manning's career is full of double-digit interception seasons. It's full of them. They're all over the place. Nobody seemed to mind then, right? If you look at Kurt Warner, full of double-digit interceptions. Peyton Manning, full of double-digit interceptions. But now you have to not turn the ball over. Even Josh Allen before this year, every year, double-digit interceptions. But when it comes to Winston, no, he turns it, because one year he threw for 30, right? Meanwhile, did you know that there's some years where these Manning brothers pushed that 30 number? I think it's interesting how we look at it. How can you be medium? Yes, medium, and neither fast, quick, nor strong for your size. I'm assuming he's talking about Wandale. Off Broadway, that's not fair. I think Wandale Robinson is actually pretty like big and tough for his size. He is quick, but if you're catching the ball and you're getting hit immediately, that doesn't matter. Also, we saw him have some breakaway speed last year where he broke for long runs. We just didn't see it this year. Yeah, you almost feel I feel worse for Slayton than I do for Daniel Jones, right? Daniel Jones, to me, at least got paid for his issue. Like he at least got paid for how he was treated on the way out the door. Right? Like Slayton hasn't been able to cash in. And they've literally dive bombed his draft capital, right? They've dive bombed it. So it's really strange what they did. And shout out to Tudo Azuris. Much love and respect to Coach Gene and all diehard Giants fans across the pond. Hey, we love that rugby. I hope y'all are out there playing tough. Love rugby. Tudo has been a guy since I started doing this podcast who's been popping up anytime I've done a live. I really appreciate you. By the way, if y'all want to, throw a little dollars on the super chat, never mind that. I'll never mind that because, everything that we do on here is free. But if you want to patronize, we really would appreciate it. But yeah, just the way that Slayton was treated really bothered me, right? Like Cynthia says, they did start him over Hyatt, and Slayton had a good amount of drop passes. Everybody had a good amount of drop passes. Slayton didn't have more drop passes than Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors led the league, I believe, or was second in the league in drop passes. He didn't have more drop passes than Wandale Robinson. And just so y'all know, I don't think Jalen Hyatt's good. I think Jalen Hyatt is a guy who can't get off press coverage, who isn't shifty enough to be in the slot, and whose value is only really seen over the top. And thus, if you don't have a guy who can get him the ball over the top, right? Not where he has to compete for it, because that's not going to always work. He's limited. Do I think you give up on him? Absolutely no. I think you continue to try to develop. Should he have gotten more snaps this year than he did? Absolutely, Slayton should have gotten more snaps than he did. But like, I ain't gonna feel bad, right? Russell Wilson, it is interesting because I think Russell Wilson would have thrown the ball over the top, right? I think he would have thrown the ball deep, but I think he would have probably been just as bad. I think he would have been just as bad for the Giants as these other quarterbacks because he's not Tyrod Taylor. Like when Russell Wilson was at his height, he was better than Tyrod Taylor. But time has been better to Tyrod Taylor than it has been to Russell Wilson. Like Russell Wilson always needed to be able to like work around and then hit. But now he can't really work around as much anymore. He's not as mobile. Tyrod Taylor has always had the anticipation, and his athleticism hasn't really fallen off as he's gotten older, whereas Russell Wilson's had. But that's what happens when you're fat and happy. Like, and I don't mean that disrespectful. I'm not saying he's fat. I mean in the fact that he's made a lot of money. He made $100 million from the Seahawks. He made another $100+ million from the Broncos. So he's fat and happy. I would be open to a combination of things. All right. So we'll talk some more because I see a lot of you in the chat and I want to get to the chat. before I get to my next topic. Vrabel to the Pats is the least shocking news ever. Let's hope he takes Bowen back. Yeah, I hope Bowen just leaves. I hope they fire Bowen because he's not good. But yeah, I don't care about Vrabel to the Pats. That doesn't move the needle to me. I didn't want Vrabel to be the head coach of the Giants. I don't think he's imaginative enough on offense. I think you need someone who can be more imaginative on the offensive side of the ball if you're not going to have a defense that locks people down. And Shane Bowen's not going to have that defense. Shane Bowen didn't have that defense at the Titans. All the defensive success was before Shane Bowen was the defensive coordinator. I said that when he got hired, right? I'd be open to Justin Fields also with a rookie QB. Okay, so this is one that's interesting, Cynthia, because I would be open to Justin Fields as well. I think, though, you have to be smart about this. Justin Fields, if you're going to get a Justin Fields, then you need to get a guy who can play a very similar game as Justin Fields. So I get Justin Fields, and if a guy like Jalen Milroe falls to the second round, I get Jalen Milroe as a second with Justin Fields. I signed Justin Fields to a short-term deal, a prove-it deal, 1 year, maybe 2 years, prove it. I bring in Milroe as the development. They both have similar skill sets. I think Justin Fields is a much better passer than what people give him credit for. I think Jalen Milroe was stuck in the fact that he still needs some seasoning, right? But I like the idea of Fields, but I don't like the idea of putting Justin Fields with quarterbacks that don't match what they do, right? That don't match what they do. I think that if they went out and got Cam Ward, I think you should still sign a guy like Jameis Winston to go with him, right? What better handcuff would you have for Cam Ward than a Jameis Winston type, a guy who will push the ball down the field, who will be a good soldier, a good backup, a good mentor, right? If you went out and got Shadur Sanders, I think you try to go and find a way to bring Tyrod Taylor back. Why? Because Shadur Sanders throws with anticipation. Tyrod Taylor is the king of throwing with anticipation. They both are athletic enough, and therefore you have similar things. Now you don't have to push those guys to the wolves immediately. You can bring those guys in slowly. Yeah, Lloyd, I'm with you. Milroe at 3 is interesting, right? It's interesting because I do think he's more of a developmental guy than the other two, but I wouldn't necessarily be mad at it if you think that his athletic traits are otherworldly, which I do. Trade down and get that Mason Graham guy to pair with Dex. You're not trading down to get Mason Graham. Mason Graham will be gone in the top 5 picks, maybe top 6. He'll be gone. Because there are guys that are up there who don't need quarterbacks, right? He'll be gone in the top 5 picks. But I do have a guy. Who I think could go next to Dex and be really, really effective. And I don't think you're not going to have to spend a lot of draft capital on him. I think you can get him with a day 3 pick. We'll talk about him here in the next, as we get into the whole cycle. You got to go Hunter or Carter at 3 if the top 2 QBs are gone. Trade back into the first if you have 2 for a Dart or a Milroe. I think if you're there at 3 and the 2 guys are gone, you gotta go. You gotta go Hunter. You don't go Carter. And I know everybody's in love with Carter because that's what happens. We see somebody play real quick, one game, and we go, that's the guy. And I love Carter. But you have 3 edge rushers already. You just need they just need to stay healthy together. Like, people are down on Kayvon Thibodeau. Like, Kayvon Thibodeau was trash this year. He wasn't. I'm sorry. I'm just convinced people don't know what they're looking at when they say Kayvon Thibodeau's not good. Is he Aiden Hutchinson? No. But that's the reason why Aiden Hutchinson went first overall, right? I think that you go Hunter because Hunter gives you something on multiple sides of the ball. He is the depth. Remember when y'all say, hey, trade down and get more pieces? He's the more pieces. He's the starting cornerback that you want. He's the starting wide receiver 2 that you want. And with packages being what they are, he can start as cornerback. He can start as your number 2 wide receiver and play 30 to 40 snaps on offense and play his 75 on defense. Like, that's possible. Hey, coach, what position on the offensive line would you address in order to stabilize it? If I'm being honest, Ruben, I think the offensive line is stabilized, right? When healthy, if you're going to say that Illuminor is the full-time right tackle now, right? You've got him as your full-time right tackle. You got Andrew Thomas as your full-time left tackle. You have your guards with Van Roten and with left guard. I forget his name right now, but it'll come back to me anyway. Those 2 guys are under contract. Well, Van Roten might be on a 1-year deal, but he'll be cheap. Jake Kubis, the backup guard from North Dakota State, proved that he can be a serviceable to good offensive guard. And that's before you get to Evan Neal, who I know a lot of people don't like, but you ain't see a whole lot of sacks being given up by Evan Neal at right tackle. Imagine if you just bump him inside and let him play guard. And now Van Roten becomes your backup center, right? Your backup center for JMS. Kubis is your swing guard as the backup guard. And now you go out and address a backup left tackle or backup swing tackle, but in a pinch, you know you can put Evan Neal at tackle and bring Kubis in at guard if necessary. So I think in a way they have the group of 8 to 9 that they should feel comfortable with when healthy, that they can be a quality unit. This offseason, getting everybody healthy, allowing them all to gel together, and making the decision about what they're going to do with Evan Neal. Are you going to continue to just let him be a backup tackle, or are you going to move him and turn him into a starting guard? Oh, yo, shout out to Tutu. Says, mark your calendars on Saturday, February 1st. Team Italy versus Scott. 5:30 a.m. Eastern time, and witness the O-line destroyer in action, keeping the hospitals busy all day. Please pray for my victims, mate. Yo, Tutu is hilarious. He is a hilarious dude. What do you think they should do with Neal? Well, I just talked about it for sure. Like, I think he should be a guard. But if you look at my record, I've said that I thought he was a Pro Bowl level guard when they were thinking about drafting him. I think he's a Pro Bowl, not Pro Bowl, all pro level guard. I think he will eventually be a good to serviceable tackle. But I don't think that's where you should keep him, because I think his highest ceiling is at guard. And by the way, if he turns into a Pro Bowl, all pro guard, it's not a reach. It's not a reach at all. Hey, shout out to PJ. PJ, appreciate you, man. Tyrod Taylor was either unlucky or injury prone, unfortunately. It just didn't work out for him. Daniel Jones had a similar injury and unfortunate streak. Ward, Fields, Milroe, anyone needs to be able to stay on the field. Yes, I agree, which is why I didn't say bring in Tyrod Taylor to be the starter. I said if you get Shedeur, right? If you get Shedeur Sanders, then I think Tyrod would be a perfect backup. Tyrod was snake bitten by injuries on the back end, but not in Buffalo. He just lost his job because Buffalo decided they wanted to do something different, not because he wasn't having success. Remember, they traded him away off of a playoff team that he dragged to the playoffs when they were trying to actively tank to eventually take Josh Allen. But I agree. Whoever it is, they got to stay on the field. They got to stay on the field. And shout out again, PJ. We really do appreciate it. Coach, I think they should be looking at Matt Jones from Jacksonville. No, Walter. Nope. 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 Like, that Jacksonville team was bad. Those games that he was doing well in, they still lost. Right? And then on top of that, if you think about Mac Jones, when people know how to game plan for him, he struggles. He's Daniel Jones. Mac Jones is that. Matter of fact, you know what? I don't want any more Jones. No more Joneses at quarterback for the foreseeable future. Who would you want to get for DC? I said Salah. I said Salah on my podcast a couple of days ago. I think Salah is the guy. I wouldn't mind a reunion with Patrick Graham. I thought he did a really, really good job when he was here. People like undersold it, but he did a really good job when he was here. Dave's ego getting in the way. I don't know. I'm gonna shoot him a little bit of bail in saying that I don't think it's an ego thing with him. In that regards, although he's had some issues, right? Although he's had some issues, that is for sure. Yeah, I mean we've talked about it, Steve, or Steven, excuse me if you don't like to be called Steven, Steve. We've talked about it. Vrabel being hired as the Pats coach only moves the needle for us if he takes if he takes Shane Bourne with him. But guess what he's not going to do? He's not going to take Shane Bourne with him. You know why? Because he knows Shane Bourne's not good. That's why. Yeah, so that's what we got going on right now. One of the uglies, obviously. And then another ugly for me this year was watching. Another ugly for me is watching how the players who the Giants front office decided were not good, right? Watching those guys ball out this year. It just keeps replaying in my mind it keeps replaying in my mind the talk by I'm going to be really sick if Saquon goes over to Philadelphia. Like, I keep replaying that over and over and over and over again in my mind. I'm going to be really sick if Saquon goes to Philadelphia. He said it very specifically as if, and now that I know that he still talks to Saquon, I think Saquon told the ownership, hey, if you guys don't do right by me, I'm going to Philadelphia. Right? I know Philadelphia will do right by me. If you guys don't do it, they will. Now I see you skip my comment, Coach. I don't see a comment by you, if I'm being honest. I'm not even joking. Yeah, I'm gonna keep looking for it, but I didn't see a comment. And I apologize if I did. It definitely was not on purpose. I just didn't see a comment. But yeah, I look at that and go, man, you had a generational talent at quarterback whom almost everybody in hindsight said that you reached for, right? Everybody said, everybody said you reached, you're never supposed to, you're never supposed to take a running back that high. And my whole thing was, you take a running back that high if that running back is generational, right? Like the reason that you take a running back that high is if the running back is generational. And Saquon was a generational talent. And that's why you take him that high. So I don't know why, for the money that he was asking for, he wasn't asking for money like the top tier guys was getting. He wasn't asking for CMC money. He was asking for more money than he had been receiving. He wanted to be paid like one of the best running backs in the league. He wanted to be paid like somebody that the team was running into the ground. Hey, if you're going to run me like a workhorse back, then shouldn't I be compensated like a workhorse back? Right? Like, I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense to me. Tank, I really do. I'm here because I want engagement. Like, I want to be able to talk to people about this. I don't want you to just listen to me and go, oh, okay. Like, I want to, if you think I'm wrong, say I'm wrong. If you think I'm right, you can say I'm right. If we disagree, it's cool. Like, I don't want to fight you over a disagreement. I want to state my point. I want to hear your point. I might say, hey, I agree. Or, oh, I understand where you're coming from. Or, nah, that's crazy. I'm not doing that. Like, it's okay. We can all live our lives still, right? Coach, are the Giants a dumpster fire, or is there some hope for this team? Okay, so Ruben, the Giants have a flicker in the dumpster. There's a flicker in the dumpster, right? But the Giants are not, it's going to sound so crazy when I say this. The Giants are not that far away from a playoff team. The difference between a playoff team and a team that's picking in the top 5, it's a few plays here and there. Don't believe me? You don't believe me? The Browns have elements of a playoff team. They're not in the playoffs. Why? Because the quarterback play wasn't good enough consistently in order to get them over the hump, right? The quarterback play brought them all the way down. But they're close. They lost a lot of close games. The Giants lost a lot of close games. The reason why the NFL is so great is because you can go from worst to first in a year. See the Texans. Now, the thing that's more difficult for the Giants is that they play in a division where everyone is up. Everyone's looking up. The Eagles aren't going anywhere. The Washington Commanders aren't going anywhere. And as much as people like to bag and clown about the Cowboys, they're not going anywhere. Right? They're not going anywhere. They're going to be around. Can Hunter play both sides of the ball without getting injured? No. He can't play both sides of the ball without getting injured. You want to know why? Because people can't play one side of the ball without getting injured. But don't worry about injuries. What you want to worry about is severity of injury. Is Travis Hunter going to get injured enough where he probably has to miss a game or two? Yeah. As long as it's not 5 games, as long as it's not 7 games, it's okay. Because almost everybody misses a game or two for injury, even quarterbacks. Now, that one is the place where it hurts the most. But if you say that the average NFL team, if an NFL team averages somewhere around, let's say 75 plays a game, right? If Travis Hunter plays 70 snaps on defense and 40 snaps on offense, right? As a wide receiver 2-3 combination, right? If he was to just play those 75 snaps on defense, there's probably going to be a time where he gets hurt. If he was to just play those 75 snaps on offense, there's probably a time where he's going to get hurt. What you're talking about is conditioning, not like injury. Like his injuries are going to come from getting banged up, right? That can happen regardless of where you play at. So, can he play both sides without getting injured? Probably not, because he's never done that in his career. Every single year he was in college, he was injured. He was injured his 1 year at Jackson State. He was injured both years at Colorado. But when he's on the field, can he be special? Yes. That's all that matters. Can he be special on the field? Yes. You want to know what I'd be more concerned about with Travis Hunter? I'd be more concerned if playing on that surface is going to be good for Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is one of those guys that likes to go and then stop on a dime. And we know that there's something cursed about that turf. And I don't know. Like, I would be more concerned about that than I am about anything else. Saleh and Graham would be great, but Saleh will go back to San Francisco, and Graham with Flores when he gets a head coaching job. It's going to be hard with Dable on the hot seat to bring in a good DC. I agree. Except, where is Saleh being hired with San Francisco at? Like, why hasn't that happened already? San Francisco season's over with. Saleh's been fired for the longest. Why hasn't that already happened if that was going to happen? Right? Is Saleh going to go back to San Francisco to be the linebackers coach or the DBs coach and not the DC? Is San Francisco going to fire the DC in order to bring Saleh back in as the DC? Is Patrick Graham, does Patrick Graham have a home? Because the regime, the GM and the head coach are both out in Vegas. So, like, number one, where is Brian Flores getting hired at? We've seen how that goes for minority hires. Where's Brian Flores getting hired at? If his defense lets down this Monday, does that cool off his flame for getting hired? Probably. It's already a long shot. So if Flores doesn't get hired, where's Patrick Graham going? Got to go somewhere. For these coordinators, it doesn't matter if they go somewhere where the head coach is on the hot seat, because nobody's going to look at the head coach getting fired as a diss on them, right? Because they're going to assume that head coach was on the way out anyway. So I think that somebody will come if they think that there's enough talent to be successful, and if they just got to pay their mortgage, right? Thoughts on offering Flores a contract for DC with a next head coach guarantee? You can't guarantee him a next head coach. You can't guarantee anybody a next head coach. I doubt if the Giants would do anything with Flores, because Flores was was suing the Giants, or the Giants are one of the team in the suit. I think a few people have said that in the chat now. And the Giants, I don't know if they're pinching pennies. I don't know if they're pinching pennies, but it is really interesting who they've chosen. What's up, Coach? You think we would have had more wins this season if Drew Lock was the starter from jump? Yes. I think Drew Lock is a better quarterback than Daniel Jones. But I don't think Drew Lock is a better quarterback than than I don't think he's a quarterback that's going to get you to the playoffs. So I think do you have more wins? Yes. Do you have enough wins to get to the playoffs? No. I don't think that at all. And I'm not spending any more money on Drew Lock. You might as well bargain basement hunt if you're going to spend money on Drew Lock. I think Salah has nothing to lose by being our DC this year. He can only look good and set himself up for another job if he improves. Absolutely. There's no downside to that. He can always regress to defensive coordinators or defensive line coaches or linebacker coach or whatever it is he would want. But yeah, like I don't think there's anything to lose by bringing him in. I don't think there's anything to lose by bringing Patrick Graham in. Lou Anarumo is in the same position, and he's a New York guy, so maybe he would want to come back this way, or maybe he wouldn't. Maybe because he knows, maybe because he knows that this New York life can be a little bit tedious. Maybe he doesn't want to come back. This is interesting though. Vincent said that San Francisco already fired the DC. Well, then, okay. Well, then, game's on. Salah's still getting head coaching interviews. Nobody's hiring Salah as a head coach. Salah should have never been hired as a head coach. Salah's a horrible head coach. There's some people who just should be coordinators, right? Like I remember when they were talking about Wink Martindale getting head coaching consideration. I was like, Wink is a defensive coordinator. He's not a head coach. By the way, all those people who were down on Wink, boy, I'd love to have Wink right now. Boy, I'd love to have Wink with this, with the pieces. Like Shane Bowen did such a bad job that he made linebackers who people thought were some of the best, were the best in the game, look like they shouldn't be starters. It's bad. It was bad. It's okay though. What's your ideal QB pickup? I mean, I've talked about it a lot. I think somebody said that I can't help but like go on a tangent about them, so I won't. I think that the move is to get Shedeur Sanders. I think if you bring Shedeur Sanders in, he is the guy that can immediately make you relevant from the position. Why? Because his sole dedication is to try to get the ball in the hands of the dudes that make the plays. I think it's interesting, and I won't take long on this because, like I said, I know people said I be geeking out on Shedeur Sanders, but I think it's interesting that people look at Shedeur Sanders and go, "Oh, well, he had all this talent." Outside of Travis Hunter, who is the can't miss wide receiver one, running back one that he has been working with? Nobody. Every last one of these dudes had question marks around them when they came in. LaJohntay Wester was putting up numbers at FAU, but what does that mean, right? Like if LaJohntay Wester if LaJohntay Wester was still at FAU this year, then he would just be another dude. But because he came to Colorado and got with Shedeur Sanders, ta-da! And that's before you consider that this isn't just about winning for an organization. This is about putting butts in the seats. This is about putting eyeballs on the television. Shedeur Sanders checks every single box, and he is a good-looking young black man who would allow people to get rid of some of the negative stereotypes and tropes that they have about the New York Giants, which is the Giants don't want to have black leadership, right? I don't know if y'all know this or not, but it's one of the knocks on the Giants that the Giants actively try to not have black leadership, which is why you don't ever see black head coaches. It's why you don't see black GMs. It's why you don't see black quarterbacks, right? I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just telling you that's how people think, right? I'm just telling you that's how people think, looking on the outside, from the outside looking in. With the exception, I think Jerry Reese, right? Wasn't Jerry Reese a Giant? Yeah. Like Jerry Reese was there. And even in Jerry Reese's time, like no black head coaches, no black quarterbacks. Again, I don't disagree. I'm just telling you what a lot of people on the outside think. Coaches started following you like 4 years ago because of the recruiting video you made for my son. Oh, I remember that. Thank you. I appreciate it, Steve. I remember that. We used to do these videos where we would break down talent. Myself and Emery Hunt football game plan. For years, we've been doing it for years. And so no, that's cool. That's what's up. I like that. I think we'll be stuck with Bowen. I don't believe Shane and Daves can admit they got it wrong. They lost my trust. That's interesting. If they come back with Bowen, it would almost certainly be them not wanting to admit that they were wrong, but also kind of dooming their fate here because he's just not good, right? And that's the problem. He's just not good. Would you trade up for Shedeur if given the opportunity? Yes. I say that, right? The problem is I don't think they'll have to. I think that there's so much smoke and mirrors going on out there that people will start believing it. And you might see a Shedeur Sanders drop, which I think would just make it easy for them to take Shedeur Sanders at 3. I don't think you may have to move up, but I would, because I think he's my guy. And every time is, if you see he's your guy, then you go and make him your guy. The New England thing was different because Mayo he was a part of their program. He came up with the Patriots. He had been with the Patriots. He was with the Patriots throughout his career. He started coaching with the Patriots. That's part of why there was a succession plan for him. But that's not the case with anybody else. You can't bring a coach in for a coach that's not near like ready to shut it down and go, oh yeah, this dude is going to be the head coach whenever we fire you. That's not how it works. It's not gonna roll. Record prediction for next year. It's hard for me to make a record prediction without knowing who's going to be what right now. I will say this, as currently constituted, this is probably a 6 to 7 win team. That's currently constituted before they do anything. 6 to 7 win team. Milroe or Dart with Fields, then we take Travis Hunter at first. I'm not mad at taking Travis Hunter with the 3 if you can get Milroe in the second round. You bring in Fields, you've got those same similar guys together. I'm not mad at that. I wouldn't even be mad at with Dart. And with Dart, I would say you probably want to bring in somebody. I don't know if Fields is the guy, because I really and truly believe that your backup should be comparable to your starter, like have similar traits, so that you don't have to change up your thing. Y'all, a lot of people are way too high on the Dart is athletic stuff. Like, there's a difference between having athleticism and being athletic. Like, Daniel Jones is fast. He can run. Daniel Jones isn't athletic. Daniel Jones isn't making people miss. That's why he kept getting hurt, because he was a crash test dummy when he tried to run. Like, there's a difference between what there's a reason why Lamar looks like that when he runs, and why the only person that we've seen since Lamar look similar to that is Jaden Daniels, because they both have abilities as runners. They're both not just fast, but they both understand how to run. Lamar Jackson even more than Jaden Daniels, because Jaden Daniels can be a crash test dummy sometimes as well. I love Tyrod, but he is injury prone. I personally think the Jets should have played him more. Yeah, you can love him. He's injury prone. I'm not talking about him coming to be the starter though. Like, he's at the point of his career where he is the perfect backup, because he has starter ability, right? I said this before off Broadway that I believe Shedeur Sanders is the most pro-ready quarterback. I don't think that Shedeur Sanders is the most athletically gifted or the most talented thrower, right? Outside of accuracy, he's probably the most accurate. Not probably, he's the most accurate quarterback in the draft. But that's probably where we're talking about physical tools. That's the only thing he's going to have that's at the top. The rest, you're going to be able to find people who are faster. You're going to be able to find people who throw harder. You're going to be able to find people who are bigger, right? You're not going to find anyone tougher, because he is super tough, right? But you will find those other things. But the most pro-ready, the guy who can walk in and command a huddle, like right now, the guy who can walk in and handle media right now, the guy who can walk in and elicit trust from the offensive line and receivers right now, that's Shedeur Sanders. Trying to see something. I see what you're trying to see. Trying to get me going again. I get it. I heard one analyst say Fields is better than any QB in this year's draft. I'm not 100% in agreement, but I know his old teammates loved him. I think Fields is really good. I think, if we're being honest about it, Fields was probably a better option day one than anyone in last year's draft. If we're being honest about it. Like, but we're not in that world anymore. So now we have to be in the world of what we're in, which is Fields is a guy who you can bring in on a short contract for low money, pair him with a rookie, and let it play out. And if Fields proves to be the guy, then guess what? You got the guy. And now you have a backup that's young that you can groom and either trade and or hold, so that 4 years from now, you can make a decision about whether you want to continue with Fields or turn it over to the other guy. That's where it is. Why can't the Giants sign their stars anymore, Isaac? They can. They're just choosing not to. Like, it's because the stars are not their stars, right? Leonard Williams was not their guy, right? McKinney, Xavier McKinney, he wasn't their guy. Love wasn't their guy. Saquon wasn't their guy. Zietler wasn't their guy. Like, those guys weren't their guys. And so because they weren't their guys, they didn't want to keep them. And so if you notice, this team, outside of the two guys that you absolutely couldn't get rid of, right? Outside of Dexter Lawrence and Andrew Thomas, everybody else is switching and changing over. Why? Because they're their guys now. Because they want to win with their dudes. It's not funny off Broadway. Not funny at all. I mean, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. Speaking about Travis Hunter, MetLife should be grass for the World Cup. I mean, the World Cup, they're going to make MetLife put grass in. But then that is on the Giants and their front office to continue to use grass, which I don't think they'll do. Right? I don't think they'll do it. Do they keep it? I'm assuming you mean the draft pick. I don't know, but they should if they're going to get a quarterback there. And even if they don't, quarterback, Travis Hunter, or trade the pick. That's what I'm thinking. It's Shadur Cam, Travis Hunter, in that order. Shadur, Cam, Travis, trade. I like it. Shadur, Cam, Travis, trade. That's what I'm doing. Off Broadway, the Giants make coach moves. I'm looking at you, Mike Kafka and Shane Bowen. I don't know if they'll make any moves offensively, right? And I do think that Kafka got a raw deal last year, but I also didn't understand hiring Kafka in the first place. The same way I don't understand why people are all of a sudden on Davis Webb's nuts to come back and be the offensive coordinator, as if Davis Webb has ever coordinated anything. Like, we just wanted 1 year is all it takes for some of these people to get like shot up the ladder. Let Davis Webb learn. Davis Webb was a bad quarterback who was able to squeak out a decent career as a bad quarterback. Now he gets gifted into a role as a position coach, and people want to fast track him up. Let him learn. Let him make mistakes, right? Like, let him make mistakes. It's okay, right? Is the my guys thing an ego trip? Of course it's an ego trip. Anytime you see people that want to put their people in place before others, right? Or over others, it's an ego trip. Because if you win with other people's talent, then people say, oh, well, yeah, you won it, but it was with someone else's talent. And you know what I would say to that? Well, thanks to them. But a lot of people, a lot of men, machismo, don't think that way. They think, oh, well, if it's talent, then I want it to be my talent. And that's where they fall off. It can be political for sure. You would think that a GM would want to keep any and all talent, but we know that the human element is involved. And a lot of time the human element gets in the way of a lot of things that we're doing here. And Thomas, I see you. I'm gonna get to you, my guy. Hold on for me. I really hope we keep Darius Slayton. Everybody was ready to drop my boy for Hyatt. Slayton is better than people have seen. We also need to keep Aziz. I agree that you need to keep Slayton and Aziz. But here's the thing. If the Giants don't keep Slayton and Aziz, then I want you guys to point out once again the failure of Joe Shane to understand how this thing is supposed to work. If you're a losing team and you have assets like Darius Slayton and Azeez Ojulari, and you don't trade them away and get something in return for them, and you just let them walk in free agency and get nothing, then that is a failure as a GM. Because this team was not going to win with Azeez or with Slayton by the time we hit the trade deadline. So they should have been gone if your plan is not to keep them on the roster for beyond 2024. So watch for that. If they do it, then it just says, hey, we're trash. We don't know what we're doing. 3 and 14, what talent? Steven, I do believe there's talent on this team. A lot of talent. What should be done with the second pick if they get their QB with the first round pick? Who do they go after if they get Travis Hunter? I think the second round pick, if you get your quarterback in the second round, you've got to go defense. I'm going best player available, best defensive player available, because I believe they need to be upgraded at all three levels. So whether it's corner, defensive line, or linebacker, because at some point someone has to stop accepting Micah McFadden making all of these 6 and 7 yard tackles or missed tackles where he should be meeting people in the hole, but he doesn't because he overruns the hole or he misreads it or he just gets juked or ran over, which we see happen a whole lot. Like at some point, we have to address that. And if you don't feel as if there's someone on the roster that could replace him, then you got to go out and get him in the draft. Let's see. Yeah, we do have talent, Isaac. A lot of talents being used. Evan Neal is one example. It's being used wrong for sure. Yeah, I think that's really weird. That a lot of people are on the Jackson Dart train. They see one real good game versus a bad like Duke team with people who've opted out and all of a sudden he's supposed to be good. I don't think he's bad and I like him, but the problem is when people do the overcorrection and try to make him better than Ward and Sanders, that's when I have to come back in and go, nah, he's not that. Let's chill already. I think Neal could play guard. I also think that he's a tackle, but I think that he's being forced to play on the right side. And if you've ever tried to do something with the opposite foot, what people don't get is that trying to kick slide to the right has a different feel than trying to kick slide to the left. The same way that trying to have a layup with the right is different than trying to have a layup with the left. So if you are better left-handed or on the left side, then you should just be able to play that side. But if we're convinced that we can't put you on that side because we have an all-pro guy there, we're going to put you on the other side and you can't do it, then you look like a failure, which is why I believe they never put him at left tackle, because if he would have had success at left tackle, now you've got a dilemma, right? Now you've got a dilemma. You've got this young 23-year-old who looked really good at left tackle, but you already have an all-pro left tackle. You know what the answer to that is? Put him at left guard. Ta-da! You put him at left guard. You got Andrew Thomas at left tackle. Now you have arguably the best run blocking side in all of the NFL. Because the one thing we all are in agreement is when Evan Neal gets his hands on you in a run block, you're going that way, right? You're going that way. And so that's what I would do. I'm going to bring on Thomas. Thomas, what's up, man? Come on, join in. Let me get you up here on the 2-shot. There we go.
What up, Coach?
What up, Thomas? How's it going?
Chilling, man. How you?
You know, I'm out here just doing my thing, man.
All right. What defensive scheme do you think would be best for Banks?
Best for what?
Deontay Banks.
It's interesting. I think that I think that we saw I think that we saw 2 years ago, not last this past season, but the season before, that he is good in man, right? Like he's a good man coverage guy. But what you can't do is you can't just make it so obvious and apparent. I think the problem with what he was doing in Wink's defense versus what he was doing with Shane Bowen's defense is that it seemed to be all or nothing, right? And so, like, I think he's a man. I think he's a man coverage type of cornerback, but I don't think you can put him in man 100% of the time because those guys on the other side are just really talented too. And to think that that you want a cornerback to be a lockdown, shutdown corner is unrealistic. You want a cornerback that wins most of the time, right? And
Yeah.
so the problem is that we'll see him give up a touchdown and go, oh, he's terrible. But the other, 15, 20 plays where the guy didn't do anything, nobody will pay any attention to. It's the same thing with Evan Neal when he gives up a sack and he looks really, really bad in that one rep, but nobody noticed the other 4 to 5, 6 reps where he didn't give up a sack, where he played his position, and then they'll just focus on that one. So for me, I'd like to see him in more of a man scheme consistently with possibly some help over the top that allows him to play more aggressive at the line of scrimmage. I think that would be better for him.
Okay. Now, who out there as a defensive coordinator fits him?
I think Patrick Graham would be a great fit for him. He'll bring in a dynamic where he switches it up. I like the pressures. His pressure packages. I'd love to see what he would do with this like with this assortment of defensive linemen, edge rushers that the team has. I think he would get creative with it, and be able to get those 4 and 5 man pressures to get home a little bit more,
Mm.
which would allow the quarterbacks time to speed up a little bit. I didn't think Wink was a bad quarterback. I mean, a bad coordinator for him. Wink just had issues with the head coach. Like they just bumped heads. So a guy who really and truly believes in more pressure packages, I think is a guy that's going to be better for Banks because that allows him to be more aggressive, to throw off timing throws, and doesn't give the quarterback enough time to allow a wide receiver to get by him and create separation on deep balls.
Okay. Now jumping around a little bit. What's your feeling on Abdul Carter?
I think he's great. I don't think he'll last very long.
Do you think it's worth going up to grab him at number 3?
Um, do I think it's worth it? Um, do I think he's worth a third overall pick?
Not necessarily him. I guess I'm more so asking it against the obvious that we need a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at that, would you go him over a quarterback? Because honestly,
No, no, no,
no.
no. I'm not taking him over a quarterback. Now, if for some reason they go out and sign a quarterback and say, hey, this is our guy, like not, hey, this is a placeholder for the next like year. If they go out and grab a quarterback and declare this is our quarterback, then okay, go and get BPA at that point, like best player available. But I still think that that's Travis Hunter. I don't think that that's I don't think that's the edge rusher.
And see, I brought that up on another live stream that I might possibly look at Travis at number 3, only for the simple fact that you could put him on the other side of Neighbors and have a field day. Now, if you that's barring you bring that quarterback in, which in my opinion has to be Fields.
Yeah, I don't know who the guy is that you bring in. If I'm being honest, I don't know who it is you bring in. I've heard a lot of names being boundied about as potential guys that the Giants could bring in, but I don't know what the overall goal is when they're trying to bring those guys in. Is the goal for them to be the quarterback, or is the goal for them to be a placeholder until 2026, where people think there may be more options at quarterback in the draft? I don't like the thought process of kicking the can down the road.
Yeah,
I believe in taking who you feel can help right now, and if that doesn't work, don't be afraid to shoot again.
yeah,
So, for instance, if I take if I take um if I take Shadur Sanders with the third overall pick, and it's a year in and it doesn't look good, and I'm now sitting with another top 5 pick, and another quarterback is there who I believe could be the dude, I'm shooting again. I don't care what people think, right? Because either I'm going to get it right or I'm going to lose my job anyway. So, like, the whole point is to get it right. I think too many times people are like, "Hey, let's kick the can down the road." But I think you've got to strike while the iron's hot. So I don't believe you take anyone over drafting a quarterback if the quarterback lands to you at 3, or if you decide you want to go up and get one.
yeah.
But if quarterbacks are gone, to me it is Sanders, Ward, Hunter, or trade down.
Okay.
Right.
Now, call me crazy, but I see if they take Shador this year, I think that opens the door for Dion. Because I don't know if you heard, but yesterday it came out that he has put it out there that he has interest in the Las Vegas Raiders job. Now, the only way he goes to Las Vegas is if they get the quarterback right. They're too far to get the quarterback right. So I see a world where Dion comes to the Giants. What do you think?
No, I don't see it happening. Um, it would be interesting. It would be interesting, right? So if the Giants were to draft Shador, here's the issue. If they draft Shador, when are they bringing in Dion? After they draft him,
Well,
right?
here's the thing. Let me clarify that. Because this next season is not going to be good. It's going to be a repeat of this year. So, with that, I'm looking at Mirror being a businessman, putting butts in seats. Okay. He
Mhm.
says countless times that losing bothers him more than anything. We all can see that's not true. Now, what would matter more to him is money. So what's gonna bring you more money? Dion and Shador.
Yeah, I just don't see a world where it's happening. I think it has to be wholesale. I don't think you I don't think you draft Shador and then go through a season and then the next year bring in Dion. Notice what Dion said. He says, I number one, I don't believe that that he said he's interested in the Raiders.
Well,
I think a lot of that is BS. What I will say is because I heard it from his own mouth. He said the only way he would entertain coaching in the NFL is if he could coach all of his sons, not just one, all of his sons. So he wants to have it the way that he wants to have it. And I ain't mad at him.
mhm,
What I do find funny, by the way, and I'm gonna let you go, Thomas, but
yeah,
what I do find funny is these people who are saying, "Oh, Dion's trying to live through his sons." And I said, the greatest defensive back of all time,
exactly.
the guy who played the guy who played in the NFL and the Major League Baseball at the same damn time, he's trying to live through his kids. Like, his kids could only hope to have a life that has been as lit as their father's life has been. This is so crazy. Like,
Yeah.
that people think so little of us that they think that Dion is trying to live through his kids. No, he's trying to manipulate the situation so that his kids have the best opportunity for success. That's it.
As
And I
he
ain't
should.
mad at it because we see nepotism all over the place, including here with the New York Giants, and nobody says a word about it. Or if they do say something about it, they're missing the point.
Mhm.
So I ain't mad at that at all. Hey, Thomas, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it, man.
You're welcome, my man. Take it easy.
All right, take it easy. Hey, definitely hit up the little link if you want to come and join in. Love to hear from you. If you want to come in, ask some questions, leave a comment, all that good stuff, hit the link. It's in the chat right now. I'll make sure I pop it in the chat once again so you can come in. It's been a pleasure having these conversations with you, talking all things New York Giants. One of the other things that I will say that I think is a positive, because I want to give some some positive. It can't all be negative, right? Like, I want to give some positives because there are positives. I know it sounds crazy to say that there's positives coming off of this, but there are. I really do, like, while I don't look at shout out to Solution, who says Shadur is not a top 5 pick. I'm sorry. He doesn't have any elite traits. He just doesn't. He's a good processor, not great. He has a high floor, but not ceiling. Take away his name. It's an interesting thought. It's not one that I have not heard before. Before I get to anything else, let me address that. And off Broadway, don't even try it. I know what you're trying to do, but let me just address that, because people say he doesn't have any elite traits. Is accuracy not a trait? Or if by traits do you mean like physical attributes? Because accuracy is a trait. Processing is a trait. To be able to diagnose things is a trait. The ability to extend plays, that's a trait. They're not physical. They're not physical things, right? But they are traits. I'm not sure exactly like how to get people to understand this. The ability to put your team in a position to win is a trait. We saw it last night. Justin Herbert does not have the ability to win, right? He doesn't have the ability to win. Not like that. Not in the clutch, not when it matters the most. So, like, all of these things for me are traits. Here's what I'll tell you. Here's the thing where I've been able to make evaluations so much easier for me over the years. I've been doing evaluations on players now for the better part of 15 years, right? 15, probably going on 20. I don't keep exact accurate count. But here's what I'll tell you. Shadur Sanders, when he started playing ball in youth league, was doubted. They said that he only was the quarterback because his father was Deion Sanders. He had success. He blew teams away. He won championships. He got to high school, and once again, they said Deion Sanders was playing daddy ball. That's the only reason his kid was able to be the starter. And he won championships. rarely lost, put up insane numbers. Walked into an HBCU that was probably fifth, sixth in the SWAC, and immediately they were the best team in the SWAC. And that was with a loaded Florida A&M squad. Back-to-back years, he was one of the best, if not the best quarterback in all the FCS. Back-to-back years, true freshman, true sophomore. He then transferred and went to, at the time, the worst Power 5 program in all of the FBS, and immediately had them popping, and was immediately one of the better quarterbacks in the entire country. He didn't come out last year because of injuries and because of all of the quarterbacks who were in the mix. That's called being smart. He came back to Colorado, and if Travis Hunter doesn't exist, and if people didn't put a whole bunch of credence into a guy running for a bunch of yards against bad competition in the Mountain West, he would be the Heisman Trophy winner. But at every single level that he's been, he has succeeded. And every single time he's come into every single situation, people keep hitting him with the, oh, he's not athletic. Oh, he doesn't have any. So this guy, who is not big, not fast, has a weak arm, not athletic, doesn't have any elite level traits, has just been able to consistently win at every single level he's ever been at. How does this make sense? How does it make sense? Everywhere he's ever gone, people say he doesn't have anything. Not strong. He doesn't have a strong arm. He's not fast. He's not big. He's not strong. What? Like at some point, people just have to admit there must be something about him that allows him to keep having success. It's not his father. If we're being honest about it, Deion Sanders doesn't know much about offense. That's not his. Why do you think he keeps going out and bringing in these offensive coordinators to work? Because he is not an offensive genius. He's not hiring offensive genius, right? So at some point, we got to give a man some love. Cam Ward, the same thing. Went from being in a triple option offense in high school, goes to Incarnate Word, gets it popping, really good, then goes to Washington, good there, then goes to Miami, good there. He's been good at every single level in multiple offenses. Shedeur Sanders, 4 years in college, 4 different offenses. Cam Ward, in college, 5 years, 3 different offenses. Right? At some point, we got to give them credit. Meanwhile, Jackson Dart has been in the same offense for 3 seasons and has not been able to elevate his team beyond where they are, and they've had all the talent in the world. Way more per capita talent than what Colorado has, and yet hasn't been able to elevate. Jalen Milroe has been in 3 different offenses. Why? Because the offensive coordinators keep getting pinched away to go to other teams when Nick Saban was there, and then they had a whole coaching change. Like, some of these guys are who they are. They can't get it done when it matters most. Drew Aller has spent his entire career in college in the same offense, and he still looks like that. Sorry. I just think sometimes we take it for granted. Once again, if you want to join me, hit the link. If you want to pop in, if you want to keep throwing up comments in the chat. We appreciate the chat going crazy right now. Definitely continue to do that. If you want to throw a little something in the tip cup, you know what I'm saying? If you want to leave a super chat, I ain't mad at that either. A lot of people talking about having PTSD from Daniel Jones, but it's not Daniel Jones' fault, right? Like Daniel Jones didn't put himself out there. He didn't give himself all those opportunities. Somebody else did. And so I don't want to crap on Daniel Jones for it. I will give some props out, right? When healthy, the offensive line had the offensive line had the ability to be a problem for defenses, right? When you think about what they had in place when everybody was healthy, the offensive line had the ability to be a problem for defenses. If I'm them, I bring back this entire group as constituted. Maybe I add not the entire group. I'm talking about the ones that are playing. I'm gonna add another one on day 3 probably, right? But I'm bringing back the entire group. I want to see what happens if I move Evan Neal to left guard, and then I move the left guard to right side, and then I take Van Roten and re-sign him to be the backup center or to push for the starting job over JMS. Appreciate you off Broadway. Or to be the guy over JMS, right? Bring him in. I take a chance, and Kubis as my backup. He's there. I have Aaron Stinney in there as well. I would be good. John Runyon. I don't know why I can't keep his name in my head, Tank. I appreciate you. I'm moving John Runyon to the right side with Jermaine Illuminor, and I'm putting Neal on the left side, right? Neal on the left side, Runyon on the right side. Let Van Roten and JMS duel it out for the starting center job. I've got Cubis and I've got Stinney as my backup guards, and then I'd probably go out and get another tackle just in case, right? Just in case. Says, I'm just worried about them picking the wrong QB and not knowing when to let go. Oh, you'll never see the 6 years thing again, right? You'll never see that again. You got to remember, this is 6 years, but it's multiple coaching staffs. So, you'll probably never see that happen again, because I think people understand now, hey, we held on too long to that situation. I want to see Coach G on the coaching staff and reconstruct this team. Well, see, that's the problem, Christian, and thank you. But if Coach Gene Clemons is on that staff, he's not going to be able to reconstruct the team. I would have to be in the front office somewhere, right? And not for nothing, they've got Brandon Brown there, who I think is a rising star in the business, and they're not listening to him. So if Joe Shane ain't listening to Brandon Brown, he ain't listening to me. But I'd love to be up there, though. I would definitely love to be up there. I think that there are some things that they can do right now to get this team great. Not to a Super Bowl, but to get them back to a level of competitiveness and pushing for the playoffs right now. I don't think it's far off at all. Yeah, I don't know, people. I just think we need to see how that works out. But the offensive line, the talent that's in the building on the offensive line is something that I'm like, okay, you can work with this. The tight end talent, would be something that I'm like, hey, You've got 265, 250-pound, long, athletic tight ends. They're going to have to take the next step with blocking. I'm tired of seeing offensive linemen coming in to try to block because these dudes can't block. Either you guys need to learn how to block, or they need to get y'all out the paint and get somebody else. Get somebody else in there to play tight end, because I can't have mid blocking and then mid pass receiving. That doesn't make any sense. Wouldn't it be harder for Neal to go to left guard instead of right guard since he's been on the right most of his NFL career? No, I don't believe that's the case. I believe that's the reason he struggles at right tackle, is because he's naturally better on his left side. I just think some people are. Just do it on your own, right? Just do it on your own. Like, go outside, put your left foot up and your right foot back, and try to just skip back on your right side, and then put your right foot up and your left foot back and try to skip back on your left side. One side, you're going to be able to do that way easier than the other side. I'm athletic. Like, I was an elite level athlete, and even I can tell the difference from one side to the other. I played receiver. I could tell when I pushed off of my right foot versus my left foot, which side I got more explosion off of, because we're just naturally one side or another. You can get the other side to be good, right? You can get the other side to be good, but that doesn't mean I'm sorry, I just saw a comment that I thought was asinine, but I'll get to it in a second. You can be good, but like, nah, I don't believe that at all. Like, I think he can be great on the left side, because I think he's always been meant to be on the left side. Hey, shout out to Baghdad. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, it's tough. Like, I understand why people are emotional, why people are losing their minds, because they care, right? And anytime you care, anytime it matters to you, you should be upset by it. But I also want to remind everybody that this is entertainment. And so, like, the whole point is to try to be entertained on a weekly basis. And that's what I try to do. I try to find something that can be entertaining when I watch the team play. Latino, use the words you would think the Giants are Super Bowl contenders. Listen, you know what? I love Paul Latino. He has a different way of looking at things. You know, and I'm not really a whole, like, be doom and gloom all the time. I will admit that I try to look at things from a positive manner when it comes to the young, and then while also, like, admitting there's some faults, right? This I do have a problem with, solving the race problem. Are you ready to admit you were wrong about Neal? He's a bust. That's obvious at this point. How in the hell would I be ready to admit that I was wrong about Neal when I don't believe I'm wrong about Neal? Right? Like, I don't know any other way to say it, but I'm going to say it, and I'm hopefully this probably won't be the last time I talk about Neal, because he's always going to be a topic, and I have to talk about the topics that are topics. But Evan Neal is a left side lineman. Whether you believe he's a left tackle or not, I don't give a damn about it. He is better on the left side, right? He's better on the left side. When he went to right tackle with Alabama, that was his worst season as an offensive lineman. His best season was his freshman year when he played left guard. That was his best season. He played left guard. Then he went to right tackle. That was his worst season. Then the next year, his junior year, they played him at left tackle. That was his second best year. He is a left side guy. So whether or not you believe he should be at left tackle is stupid, because you have an all-pro there. He's not going to play on the left side. The Giants said, hey, we're going to play him on the right side. My argument was he can be a decent. I've never said he could be great. I said he has a potential to be a decent right tackle, but he is an all-pro caliber left guard. There has been nothing that I've seen that makes me think anything differently. He is on the right side at right tackle playing against elite level pass rushers, losing once, maybe twice in the game. He's not giving up 5 and 6 and 7 sacks. He's not out here just getting bull rushed over and blown by every single play. He's giving up 1 sack, 2 sacks at the most. Not even 2 sacks. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That happens to everybody not named All-Pro. It happens on the left side. It happens on the right side to everyone that's not an All-Pro. Yet, for some reason, Evan Neal is a bust because he is not immediately good or immediately great at right tackle. Because he's not immediately great. This is not me trying to change the narrative, right? And for the record, if you want to look at what I mean, look at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay drafted a guy to be a tackle. And at the time, they had a left tackle in place. So he went to the right side, and he was decent. He was better than Neal was on the right side. He was decent. But they moved him to left tackle, and he is now an all-pro at the left tackle. Right? He was an all-pro at the left tackle. So this happens all the time where people get thrown to positions that they're not supposed to be in. And I want to bring the chat up because y'all going crazy in the chat. I like it. There's a lot of people out there that agree with me that he's been playing out of position. A lot of people that agree he's a bust. Hey, so here's what I will say. Has he been as good as we would hope he would be? No. I can admit that solving the race problem, right? I can admit that he has not been as good as we would hope he would be. That's why I think you move him to left guard. Right? That's why I think you move him to left guard. And not for nothing, if you switched him from right tackle to left guard and he became an all pro or Pro Bowl caliber left guard, nobody's going to look at that pick and go, it was a bust. That's just silly. Tackles come in the league and switch sides all the time. What does that have to do with pass blocking, balance issues, injuries, etc.? Injuries don't make you a bust. Injuries don't make you a bust. But if you don't know the difference between left and the right when it comes to balance issues and pass blocking, I can't help you. All I can do is, like I said earlier, go outside and try to do it yourself. That's it. That's it. I'm not moving the goalpost, but I understand why you think I am. I've literally said this from the beginning. Go back to Patricia Traynor and the Locked On Giants podcast. When I was on there, I talked about Neal. I said that he is the worst pass blocker of the 3. No, I said he was the second best of the 3. I thought Cross, who went to Seattle, was the best pass blocking tackle in the draft. I thought that Neal had the best combination of both. Right? I thought Neal had the best combination of both. But I said that he would be an all-pro guard. I said that when he was drafted. You're right. I was being hyperbolic, Greg. Nobody's giving up 6 to 7 sacks a game. Most tackles do give up a sack in a game. Evan Neal doesn't give up a sack a game on average. Just like we can look at it, matter of fact. Because some of y'all just be talking and you don't actually tell the truth. You just are trying to get your point across, which I'm not mad at. But if you're going to crack on somebody, at least tell the truth when you're doing it. Because it makes it easier to be able to to talk. Like Evan Neal started 7 games this year. Right? He started 7 games. Like we don't have to act as if he's out here like he's out here playing a ton of games and he's played a bunch of games in his career. So far right now in his career at 23 years old, and I'm going to keep saying it because I don't care. You people don't understand how much offensive linemen mature and get better over time. This man has started 27 games in his NFL career. 27 games. That is less than half. That is less than half of what he would have started if he started every game in his 3 years. I'm sorry, he's 24 by the way now, not 23. Yeah, he's old now. He's 24. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. He said Evan Neal got me on the payroll. Hey, that's good. I appreciate him. That's hilarious. Do you think the defensive coach and tight ends coach will leave since they were on his staff? I hope they do. Evan is soft. There were some murmurs when he was at Alabama. He's got to be motivated. Yeah, he's definitely got to be motivated. If you mean soft like emotionally, I can agree with that because he's definitely not soft when he run blocks. Never. He be road grading those dudes. Yeah, gotta definitely get out of that. Great show, Coach. Great to get fans together and have interesting, constructive conversation. That's what we're here for. Neil, hey Greg, I 100% agree with you. I don't think he's necessarily self-motivated. I don't know if he grew up loving football or if it's something that he started doing because he was big and athletic and everybody said he should do it. But he's here now. So if he needs to be motivated, let's motivate him. Garofalo is reporting that Dable is sticking with Shane Bowen. That would be sad. Episode P training is how I started watching this show. I appreciate it. Larry, you spitting language right now, man. And I didn't even see that from Justin Pugh, but I agree. I don't think people really understand how difficult it is to go from the left side to the right side. And that's why everybody is like, oh, just switch sides, right? But it don't work that way. He moves people. Andrew Thomas moves people. Imagine putting both of those dudes next to each other. The Giants have 21 unrestricted free agents, and I know they're going to have to up the ante to resign them. No, they won't, because a lot of those unrestricted free agents didn't have great seasons, so they're not going to be hot commodities anywhere else. I think they'll have anyone back that they want to have. Only way it's proven for Evan Neal is if he gets on the left side. Hopefully, Giants see that. I'm assuming you mean it's improving, but yeah, I mean they have Illuminor at right tackle, so we don't even have to like guess about him at tackle. They have Illuminor at tackle. They have him signed to a multi-year deal. He won the starting job. So if he won the starting job, they're not going to all of a sudden take it away from him. He's the starting right tackle. Neal is the backup tackle right now. But Neal should easily be the starting guard. Yeah, like if you don't trust Pugh, then you definitely ain't gonna trust me. It's cool. I believe they're doing left, square peg, round hole. Yeah, it's cool. I think a lot of people, by the way, are still down on Neil because he said the flipping burgers thing. And I think a lot of people are soft too. So that's why there's a lot of people who look at that a certain type of way. Giants historically do better with O-line and free agency. That's not true, Greg. Come on, Greg. You've seen some of the offensive linemen that they brought in free agency. I will say that the ones that they brought in this year have all worked out pretty well, but they've had some colossal misses in free agency at offensive line. Swiping hand, swiping butt is difficult, people. The one thing we have to do is stop calling the young men kids and expect them to act like adults. Did I call him a kid? Because I don't. If I did, it was by mistake. But I said he's 24, meaning that offensive linemen play into their mid-30s routinely. So to have a young man that young that's still trying to figure it out, you don't just give up on talent. I definitely don't agree that you do that. Does it seem like the Giants' narrative this offseason will be to blame Shane Bowen and the defense to make them a scapegoat? No, I think there'll be blame all over. I think that they blamed the quarterback. That was why part of the reason they got rid of Jones. And that type of stuff. But the defense was trash. Especially through like the last 13 games, they were really, really bad. So like that, I mean, it is what it is. Even the numbers bear it out that they're worse this year than they were last year. Yeah, by the way, I think it's hilarious that they blamed it on the offensive line coach, only to watch the offensive line coach go over to Washington and get it popping in Washington. That was hilarious to me. Yeah, I agree, Larry J. But the fact that he was healthy in the preseason and they still went with Illuminor at right tackle tells me that they're probably going to stick with Illuminor at right tackle. Yeah, Tank, I hear you. If the Giants organization's calling them kids, and they definitely need to stop. That doesn't make any sense to me. Blows my mind how and why they play the optics game. They need to act like they're human and ain't and admit mistakes. At least they recognize it, and the fans do too, and would give them slack. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why more organizations and coaches don't just say, "Well, I do know why." And here's the part that you guys aren't going to like to hear. The reason that these people lie to us is because when we tell them the truth, is because when they tell us the truth, a lot of us will then call them failures for the truth. Right? Think about what happened in with the Colts, right? Think about what happened with the Colts. Quarterback says, "Hey, I was just gassed. I was tired. I needed a break." He was honest. And because of it, they said he quit on his team. They just called him a quitter. They said he tapped out. I'm like, do y'all know what tap out means? Tap out means I can't come back in. Like, tap out means it's over. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm gassed. I see running backs and wide receivers do it all the time. I've seen them take offensive linemen out and give a lineman a blow. But if the quarterback does it, right? So, like, sometimes when you're honest, they hold that against you. If there's some bad clock management in a halftime, the head coach goes, "Yeah, I use those timeouts wrong. That's my bad." Y'all don't go, "Man, I appreciate him being honest." Y'all go, "Look at this idiot. He don't know how to use the his timeouts right, his bad clock management, blah, 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 you kill him. And so because of that, they have to lie. Because if they don't, you're going to use that against them anyway. So you might as well use the lie instead of the truth. That's my 2 cents on it. Giants' identity is defense. Until we build the defense back into a top 5 unit, then we'll be stuck in our current position. That's why my pick at number 3 is Hunter. Not a bad thought process, except like if your identity is defense, then you're never winning a championship again. Never winning a championship again. Right? Because the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Their defense is what led them to a championship last year. But defense wasn't their identity. Their identity lies in their abilities on offense. When was the last time a defensive-led team won the Super Bowl? Great. We're not talking about what happened in the 1400s. Y'all, listen. We won 8 championships off of that identity. That's cool. Great. We're not talking about the 1800s. You won 2 championships that you never would have won if the offense didn't play lights out. Right? That was the Eli Manning championships. Those championships you won back with Parcells, those championships were defensive championships. The game today does not favor defense. Your defense has to be good, but you have to have some type of offensive identity or you're not winning the championship. It's just that. Your defense has to be good, but your offense has to have an identity that is respected or you're not winning the championship. Banks is young, right? Banks is young. There's no reason to ever give up on young talent. You know what have done Banks a lot of good? If he had a mentor. If he had a mentor that's that could, help him navigate these waters and all of that, that would help. Oh, that's right. They didn't want to pay him, so he went to the Packers and became an all-pro. That's what happened. Denver in 2016, was the defense that won the Super Bowl. Yep. That's a good one. I don't know. Yeah, no, that's a good one. Those Giants defenses won you the Super Bowls with Eli Manning. They got you to the playoffs. Those defenses got you to the playoffs, for sure. But Eli Manning was lights out in those. Am I wrong? Hey, if I'm wrong, like, that's cool. If I'm wrong, that's cool. But I remember those, like, Eli Manning was balling. Yeah, I don't know. But I'm a side with Greg because he makes a great point. 17-14 against the 17-0. Patriots are arguably the greatest offense of all time. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if they were 17-0 though. Didn't they lose like that game before the playoffs? But I mean, it still holds. I'll bite Greg. I'll bite Greg. Y'all can argue over that. I say that the defense got them there. But once they got to the playoffs, I thought the offense was playing lights out. Do you believe Giants fans not wanting Sanders and Ward is more political than just wanting the best prospect at the position? That's very interesting. If by political you mean race related, because I don't know if this is a politics issue. Like, I don't know if Sanders and Ward are Democrats or Republicans, right? So I don't know if it's a political issue. And I don't know if it's a race issue. I will say this. Everybody knew that in New England, they did not want Jaden Daniels. Everyone knew that in New England, they did not want Caleb Williams. Everybody knows that in New England, they got the quarterback they really wanted. When they hired the coach last year in New England, the fan base, the powers that be that were around the area, they all were not as happy with the hire. They are ecstatic today. Is that because they think they got a better coach? Cool. But if we're being honest about it, what has he ever won? Nothing. So, do I think that it is race related why we don't see people wanting Sanders and Ward? I have no clue. All I can say is if you don't take them, like you didn't take the other quarterbacks who've been available, and then they go out and ball out, it's going to further fuel the fire. I don't ever want to put racist on anyone that don't deserve it. But it is a little iffy. Best bridge QB, Fields or Jimmy? Jimmy Garoppolo? Fields. The defense was great. They held the offense of all the teams that played in both playoff runs, but the offense stepped up. You can't beat such strong offensive teams on defense alone. Eli stepped up. Yeah, I'm not saying the defense played trash. I'm just saying that the offense elevated to a point where Eli Manning's a Hall of Famer. Because if you guys want to just argue me down about how great this defenses were, then y'all going to stop arguing about Eli Manning being a Hall of Famer. I don't think Shane and Debs have a realistic plan to move this team forward, but they sold O'Mara on something. Sure. Our GOATs are all defensive guys. We have the GOAT defensive player of all time. Great defense is definitely our calling card and controlling the ball. I'm not disagreeing, Greg. My issue with it is that the way that the game is officiated, the way that the game is governed now, it is not governed to allow defense to do even what they were doing back when Eli was the quarterback. You have to have offensive prowess if you want to win championships in this climate. That's all. New England is the Mississippi of the North. Yes, I've lived in New England. It is bad. Ward is a better QB. Sanders is going to need a great O-line to succeed early. Y'all keep saying that stuff about Ward, what Sanders is going to need, but he's never had it, and he's been darn great. What does Hyde need to improve in the offseason to get more playing time? He's a one-trick pony, and it's not an elite level trick. He's just fast. He needs to get bigger and stronger so that he can be more physical on the line of scrimmage, so that he can be possibly somebody that they can trust to run those short crossing routes where you might get blown up. Right now, I don't think he has that. And not for nothing, he just might be a little sassy, and he might not fit into the overall thought process of this team. It might just be a bad pick. You add it to the heat. Giants lifer, but Eli shouldn't be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'm not going to disagree with you there, Greg. Larry, we're trying to say that Mississippi is racist as hell. That's what we're trying to say. I know you're playing, but if you're not playing, it's racist as hell. A lot of people are giving Sanders a second round grade. Why? I'm not going to break it down strictly to skin color. I think we've talked about it in here. A lot of people are looking at traits, and because Sanders does not have because he's not 6'5", because he's not 225, 230, because he doesn't have a cannon arm, because he is not super fast, right? Because he's not super fast, people are trying to discount him. But I also think a lot of this is just people being salty because he's Shedeur Sanders, because he's Deion Sanders' son, and we discount how much a lot of people do not like the way in which Deion Sanders goes about life, which is hilarious to me. This man doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink, he raises his sons and his daughter. He looks out for people. He just lets you know that he's good. And for some reason, people don't like that. Is it racial? I'm sure there's a racial component to it, but that is definitely has to do with their dislike of his father and how he gets down. They said that about DK Metcalf, one-trick pony, but they were right. He is a one-trick pony. And that's why he can't have sustained success, because if he's not catching like the deep ball over the top, he's not being successful. For as big and as strong and like as he is, he's not a short to intermediate route runner, right? So, yeah, it's a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming up on 2.5 hours. I think that's a good little run for us today. New York Giants on SI. That is where you're going to get all of your New York Giants news and information from. Make sure that you. Before I get out of here, Craig. This is who I have. This is who I have compared him to the entire time. I think he is a black Joe Burrow. He's tough as nails, just like Joe Burrow is. He is deadly accurate, just like Joe Burrow is, but he is not the guy who walks off the bus first and you go, I want him on my team. Right? So definitely something to think about. You guys out there, go enjoy these games, have fun, watch football, get ready for this offseason. It's going to be a wild offseason, right? It's going to be a wild offseason. You know why? Because people are going to be lying through their teeth. Somebody's going to come out with a mock draft one week, and it's going to be Sanders. And then they're going to come out with a mock draft the next week, and he is going to be on Ward. And then it's going to come out with a mock draft the week after that, and it's going to be like Hunter. Like, they're just going to be lying for the sake of lying, and we're going to all sit back and watch it together and smile and laugh and have some discussions and argue and all of that stuff, because that's what we do. And it's fun, right? It's fun. Before we get out of here, I just want to say, like, we don't have to lie out here, Greg. You just said that Joe Burrow was almost ran for 1,000 yards his Heisman season, and in his Heisman season he ran for 368 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like, we don't have to do this. We don't have to do this. Just for the record, because Shedeur Sanders gets sacked a lot, and sack yards go against the quarterback on rushing yards, right? Shedeur Sanders ran for negative 50 yards his last year at Colorado. He ran for negative 77 the year before that, but he has 8 rushing touchdowns. Right? That's because he takes a lot of sacks. He takes a lot of sacks because he gets sacked a lot, because he holds the ball too long, because he's trying to make plays, right? But come on, man. You just said Joe Burrow ran for almost 1,000 yards. Hey Larry, I live in Georgia, right next to Mississippi. I go to Mississippi all the time. As I'm not speaking for where you grew up. I'm not saying that the entire state is bad or racist, because clearly there are, areas, but we don't have to lie. We don't have to make up something. We don't have to make up something. Like, it's bad there. And I lived in New England. There were some great people in New England, but we don't have to lie. It's bad there. There's a lot of racism there. I'm not trying to like put anybody down, or any place down, but Mississippi is bad. It's been bad. It has a history of bad. But there are great people in every state. So Arkansas is bad, but I went to college in Arkansas. There were some great people in Arkansas. Like, Louisiana is bad. My best friend, who's a white man, lives in Louisiana. So like, just because like I'm not nothing is a monolith. Everything isn't all together. But it's definitely something there. Joe Burrow was on the best. Joe Burrow was on the best, or one of the best offenses ever in the history of the game. We're not going to sit here and try to compare Joe Burrow's tenure at LSU to Shedeur Sanders' tenure at LSU. And by the way, Joe Burrow only had one good season at LSU. His season before that, which by the way was his 4th season, it was a terrible season. It's a horrible season. He completed less than 58% of his passes, less than 3,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. He had one fantastic year. So come on now. Like, if we're going to just do the thing with the stats, then let's do it right. But I agree. Minus 50 in today's NFL will get you killed, except for sacks don't count against you. Sacks don't count against you, against your rushing totals in the NFL. But again, I enjoyed it, and I could just talk all day. I really do appreciate everybody who has commented. Shout out once again to the people who dropped a few dollars on your boy. I really do appreciate it. Tuto, shout out, came through. Hit me off with a few ducats. PJ, big time with the 1999. We appreciate you, PJ. Off Broadway with the $5. Bogdad, appreciate you as well. And even if you didn't, drop any dollars on me, I appreciate you anyway for all of the comments, sticking with me, you know what I'm saying, and being 10 toes down for over 2.5 hours. I'll get you out of here on this. I'll be back tomorrow with another edition of A Giant Issue. Until then, I am Coach Gene Clemons. As always, I have a giant issue.